Chapter 1. Peace in Our Time. Ambassador Peter looked around at the conference table. He saw many apprehensive faces, many worried expressions, and they should be after all. They were about to make peace, galactic peace, something that had never before been achieved in the history of the galaxy. After tumultuous decades of bloody warfare fought by a confusingly interconnected web of alliances and factions, the conflict would finally come to an end. After this day, the galaxy would hopefully forget war, and once they got a taste of peace, they would never let it go. Suddenly, all the ambassadors at the table stood up to attention. An alien adorned in ceremonial black and white robes entered the room. They were a Cyblerian, an insectoid species known for being somewhat reclusive. However, it was actually the Cyblerians who had helped end the Crimson War and broker peace negotiations between the multiple parties. The ambassador who had just entered was named Astronath and would help solidify the final parts of the treaty process. "It is a momentous occasion, gentlemen," Astronath said confidently. "A year ago this would be unthinkable, but yet here we are, all sitting around this table ready to put aside our differences. It truly does make one believe in miracles." Everyone murmured in agreement, with Peter reluctantly agreeing. He agreed with Astra that this was important, but he couldn't help but feel something was off. He couldn't put his finger on it, but he couldn't help but feel something wasn't right the moment he had gotten here. Peter had been known to sense things were going to go wrong before they had happened. When he was younger, he prevented his brother from attending the graduation ceremony on Krea Prime. The next day on the news, they learned there had been a terrorist attack there, claiming dozens of lives. However, Peter could not stop this important meeting only based on a feeling. "Well," he thought to himself, "it's probably nothing, and I'm just paranoid like always." He half listened to Astra and the other ambassadors say their speeches, say the things they needed to say to look good. Peter had always hated this part of politics, the theatrics. It was all a show to impress others. He always tried to avoid that when he could, but unfortunately it was a part of the job. He scanned the other members of the table. There was Lokthar, a respected diplomat in many different circles. His bulging red sets of eyes pierced the room as they took everything in. Then there was Gihula, hailing from Bentar 5, his environmental suit making chugging noises as it delivered oxygen and nutrients to his body. Makali, arguing amongst itself with its three heads. As he studied their body language, nothing out of the ordinary stood out to him, just general nervousness. Finally, it was time for all of the diplomats to sign the Crimson Accords, the reason they were all there. One by one, they got up to add their names to the document. Peter felt proud when he signed it, knowing it would be a good step forward. Suddenly, he heard a shout from the back of the room. The guards were preventing someone from entering the conference room. "You cannot let that insectoid monster sign the treaty. I won't allow it." Peter could make out a Visidian, a species with pale skin and yellow eyes that hailed from one of the Galactic Center worlds. Astra motioned for the guards to let the man in. "Let the man in. I want to hear what he has to say." The Visidian did not have much to say at all. He only wanted his actions to speak for him, for before any of them could do anything, he took out a bomb. With the decision made, they plotted a course for the planet's moon. Somehow, Duke knew he would become more involved than he wanted to. Chapter 2. The Hard Call. No one dared to move. If anyone did anything to antagonize the Visidian, he would detonate the bomb. "Look, I can see you're upset," Astra calmly said. "If you put away the device, we can discuss your grievance." "Is that what you think this is about, my petty grievance?" The Visidian snapped back. "You don't even know why I'm here, do you?" "I see an angry Visidian who could get a lot of people hurt if he doesn't think clearly," Astra calmly replied. "Do you really want to delay peace? Provoke another war? If that is what it takes to make sure Cyblerians aren't a part of it." All of the ambassadors were scared for their lives, including Peter. He regretted not doing anything, not saying something. He could have prevented this if only he had acted on his feelings. "No," he thought to himself, "I can't beat myself up over that. I have to do something right now in this moment." He took a look again at the angry Visidian, the fuming expression on their face. Obviously, they had a grievance with the Cyblerians' part in this, but he couldn't remember any conflicts between the Visidians or the Siblerians. "I'm not sure I understand," Astra said, trying to diffuse the situation. "If you would explain what this is all about, I'm sure we can work something out." The Visidians scoffed at Astra and ignored him. "Do all of you even know how this accord was possible in the first place?" Lokthar spoke up, stroking his chin. "It started at the engagement of Bentar 5. The Star Alliance was going to make a final push to destroy the weapons manufacturing plant, but the Siblerians intervened before it could happen." "And then they saved us all," retorted the Visidian. "They did tell the Star Alliance that they were given false information. If they had invaded Bentar, many lives would have been lost," rebutted Lokthar. "From there they exposed the Crimson Syndicate for manipulating both sides for financial gain. The entire war had been based on a series of misunderstandings fanned by them." "What if I told you the Siblerians had been working with the Crimson Syndicate this entire time?" the Visidian exclaimed as he pointed at Astra. Murmurs began to swell from the crowd of ambassadors. The mood of the room began to shift. "That's preposterous," Astra calmly said. "There is no proof of this, and there never will be. We wanted this war over like everyone else. We were only doing what was right. The only thing we have to gain is peace." Everyone sat in silence for some time. Peter thought they should be discussing the issue amongst themselves, but they were too scared. He understood that he had been like that for some time before he had enlisted in the war. It was only after he had gotten into politics to try to fix the mess that the war had brought. "No volunteers?" the Visidian said. "The clock is ticking, people. Make no mistake, I am prepared to die for my cause. Are you prepared to die?" Still no one moved or did anything. Peter could not take it anymore. He stood up and proclaimed, "I will volunteer. Show us this proof you claim to have." The Visidian motioned for Peter to come over to them. The second Visidian grabbed Peter and pointed his weapon behind Peter's back. "Don't try anything," he said. "I don't worry, I wouldn't dare," he said sarcastically. "Are you sure you want to do this, Peter? What if it's a trap?" "I would advise giving it a second thought," Astra shouted as they left the room. "I'm sorry, Astra, but I've made my choice. If I don't make it back, preserve the peace no matter what," Peter replied. Astra went over to Lothar in frustration. "Can you believe this? This is jeopardizing everything we've worked for." Astra vented in frustration as he slammed his fist on the table. "You mean everything you've worked for, Astra?" Lokthar replied. "What's that supposed to mean?" Astra's compound eyes bulged in anger. "Don't tell me you actually believe this terrorist." Lokthar sighed in resignation. "I only believe in the truth, and right now, I observe, you're a lot more upset after he's made that accusation." "Wouldn't you be upset if he made an accusation against your people?" Astra defended himself. "I would, but I would also try to atone for anything my people did. A peace built on lies is very fragile. It breaks very easily." Astra turned away in anger and sat back down in his seat and glared at the Visidian at the door. "Peace is too fragile," Lokthar thought to himself. "If only it did not take the blood of many men to preserve it. Conflict is inevitable, though, a part of a never-ending cycle." Chapter 3. The Star Race. The Kriya V-7 Flyer's engines hummed as it sped through the asteroid belt. The pilot maneuvered it through all sorts of debris as it tried not to die, not to mention getting chased down by the Kriya forces didn't help either. Outrunning 7 ships in this environment is a nasty business. However, none of this seemed to bother Duque. He grinned as he enjoyed the thrill of the moment. He whooped and hollered as he almost crashed a dozen times. He didn't pay attention at all to his co-pilot Jessica, who was scared out of her mind. She could barely make any calculations as they were met with 100 near-death experiences. "The jobs I take on," she thought to herself. She looked at Duque as he used the piloting interface with the navigation AI. "I have got to find a new partner after this," she thought to herself. Meser link activated. "Brielle, what are the odds we'll survive this encounter?" Jessica thought. "At the current trajectory, there is a 17% chance of survival," the navigation AI sent the thought back. "Send all relevant data you've extrapolated to Duke. Tell him to stop," she demanded. "Of course, Mom." Duke looked over. "Are you crazy? Of course not," he said. "Dukey, we're going to die if we keep this up. We have to hide somewhere and let them pass." She pleaded with him. No can do, their scanners are too advanced. We'd be sitting ducks. Besides, where's the fun in that? Plasma shots ripped past their ship as they turned near an asteroid. Look, they're going to be on top of us at any moment. Make a decision. Duke looked over at her and saw how scared she was. He realized that she was right. They could not survive this. All right, fine, but you're not going to like this, Duke grimaced. I'm not going to like what? Jessica questioned him. Hold on. Brielle, is there an opening for a hyperspace jump? Duke thought. Hyperspace jump is not recommended at this time. There is a 65% chance for failure, so I recommend getting out of the asteroid field, the AI thought back. That's a risk I'm willing to take. Plot a course that will take us far away from here as possible and a place they are most likely not to track us. Course plotted. The hyperspace drive kicked in as the engines began to overload. The ships were right behind them, ready to destroy them at a moment's notice. A message crackled over the intercom from the lead enemy ship. Runaway vessel, stand down, and you will not be destroyed. Prepare to be boarded and to hand over all cargo. I'm afraid that won't be happening today, Dookie whispered to himself. Suddenly they jumped into hyperspacey. The ship jerked forward and backward as it had trouble mapping the trajectory initially, but eventually things smoothed out. Where are we going? Jessica asked. To be honest, I have no idea, but I don't care as long as it's anywhere but here. After making additional adjustments and setting the ship on autopilot, Duke stood up from his seat and went to their cargo area. Let's wake up our guest, he said. He pressed a button on a cryopod and woke up its occupant. Welcome back to the land of the living, Senator. He helped pull the senator up as they adjusted to their new environment. What's going on? I wasn't supposed to be woken up until we got to our destination, he grumbled. Unfortunately, things have changed. We ran into some trouble and we're jumping to some random location. I have no idea where we'll end up, so I guess you'll need to make the next decision. I guess you are just the cargo pilot. You made the right call to wake me up, he mumbled. He followed Duke back to the cockpit. Have a nice nap, Jessica said sarcastically. Lovely, the senator replied dryly. Jessica motioned to Duke. Can I talk to you in private for a moment? They went to the side cabin, where they both slept and closed the door. Do we know if we can trust this guy? I mean, he's a Siblerian after all. Who knows what he could really be up to? You're always too skeptical. Duke was impatient. Look, he came forward as a whistleblower and wants to end this. That's good enough for me. We do what we're told by our clients, and that's it. We don't get involved more than what we have to. And what do you think your brother would think of you? She reminded him. Duke took a moment to reply as he thought about Peter. He thought for a moment maybe he should consider what his brother would do, but then he pushed the thought aside. No, he said. I just have to focus on my job. My brother and I have different ways of doing things. He can worry about the greater morality of the grand decisions. I have a family to provide for. Duke sighed and saw that she was hurt. I'm sorry, he apologized. It's just he left our family for his career. That's something I can't change. Duke regained his composure and focused on addressing her concerns. Anyway, I think you are letting your judgment get clouded by resentment. I know your colony was destroyed by his race during the war, but we have to focus on the present. Can I count on you for that? Jessica looked at him and reluctantly nodded at him. Suddenly he heard the hum of the drive settle down, and he knew they had arrived at their jump point, wherever that was. Jessica and Duke went back to the cockpit and looked at their instruments. Well, at least we put quite a bit of distance between ourselves and the Kree police, Jessica said. This is hopeless. We're nowhere on any known star charts, Duke exclaimed in frustration. You're saying you have no idea where we are? The senator yelled. Maybe I should have hired someone more competent. Jessica whirled around and kicked him back down in his seat. Either help out if you know something, or shut up. Scan the system. See if there's anything useful, Duke ordered. Maybe there's someone who could help us. Duke regained his composure and focused on addressing her concerns. Anyway, I think you are letting your judgment get clouded by resentment. I know your colony was destroyed by his race during the war, but we have to focus on the present. Can I count on you for that? Jessica looked at him and reluctantly nodded at him. Suddenly he heard the hum of the drive settle down, and he knew they had arrived at their jump point, wherever that was. Jessica and Duke went back to the cockpit and looked at their instruments. "Well, at least we put quite a bit of distance between ourselves and the Kriya police," Jessica said. "This is hopeless. We're nowhere on any known star charts," Duke exclaimed in frustration. "You're saying you have no idea where we are?" the senator yelled. "Maybe I should have hired someone more competent." Jessica whirled around and kicked him back down in his seat. "Either help out if you know something or shut up." "Scan the system. See if there's anything useful," Duke ordered. "Maybe there's someone who could help us." "Oh yes, I'm sure some stranger in the middle of nowhere will come to our rescue," the senator said sarcastically. Jessica whirled around again to face the senator, ready to strike. "Did you not hear what I said before?" "Jessica, cut that out," Duke barked. There was silence for a bit in the cabin before he spoke again. "Look, Senator, I apologize for what happened, but things got out of our control." "That much is obvious," the senator said under his breath. Duke ignored the remark and continued. "But if we're going to get to where we're supposed to be, we have to work together. That goes for you too, Jessica. Otherwise, we're never going to make it out alive." Jessica and the senator looked at each other, but they knew he was right. "Fine, let's get this over with." She sat back in respite. Duke turned to the senator and showed him the location data. "Senator, are you sure there's nothing in this system you recognize? Anything that could help us?" The senator took the datapad from Duke and examined the planets in the system. Nothing stood out to him until he saw the last one in the list. "Wait, can you pull up data from long-range scans on this planet?" He pointed to it on the list. Duke pulled it up on the main viewer screen and wondered what the senator was thinking. There was a rumor in the council during the war that there was a military black site somewhere in uncharted space on an ice planet like this. Jessica was skeptical. "How can you be sure this could be it or that it's even real? That's not a whole lot of information to go off of." The senator smugly grinned. "Fortunately for you, it's more than just a rumor. Well, I had thought otherwise until now. Us Cyblerians have an incredible memory. We can remember everything that comes our way. There was a leak a while back that contained info about this supposed black site, but it was proven to be false. Or so it seemed." Duke looked back at the view screen and stroked his chin in thought. "So you're saying this planet matches the leak?" "Correct. And if it was accurate, there will be technology there that can help us get back to known space." "Well, all right, let's go. I can't believe we're going to have more than one adventure today." Duke clicked his heels in excitement as he got into the pilot's seat. "Not so fast," the senator cautioned. "You should turn the cloak on and hide behind the planet's moon to determine if it's safe." "I know it's stupid, but going in unprepared is the most exciting part of life for me," Duke argued. "It keeps things interesting." "Avoiding interesting things has kept me alive for my entire life, my friend." Chapter 4. I'm Done Dancing with Death. Peter was prodded along as the Visidian led him to his ship in the station's docking bay. Everyone looked on as he was held at gunpoint. Security was an arm's length away, ready to rescue him. They could easily overpower his captor. Yet he motioned for them to stand down. If they wanted this deal to go through, he knew had to do this. Somehow, some way. He knew if he didn't do this, all they had worked for would be for nothing. They got on the ship and headed for their destination. Any time Peter tried to ask his captor where they were going, he was only met with silence. At around the 10th time of asking, the Visidian simply said, "Patience is a virtue. As a leader, I thought you would have learned that by now." Peter sat back and decided to do some meditation. He often did this to clear his mind or to calm him down in a stressful situation. He had done it many times during the war when he had to focus on a task or put aside his own feelings. However, the feeling that something was going to happen was gnawing at him again. He tried to ignore it, but he knew he couldn't. "Drop out of hyperspace," he said. The Visidian glared at him. "I'm not stopping." "They're not going to be there," Peter said. Instantly, the Visidian pulled out his weapon in suspicion. "How did you know we were meeting others? What else do you know?" "Just trust me." "I don't know how I know. I just know whoever you're meeting with isn't going to be there." The Visidian dropped out of hyperspace and turned on his comm. "Vakja, this is Veroz. Has the senator reported in yet? No. We assumed they were still on their way. We haven't heard from them in hours. Last report we got is that they had a minor run-in with a Kriya police force. Veroz, now having learned his name, looked at Peter in thought. I think something may have happened to them. We're going to have to change our plans. Do what you must, but you better do it quickly. Our only leverage is going to be gone soon. They're trying to find a way to remotely disable Heiser's bomb. Understood. Veroz switched off the intercom. Suddenly a new message popped up on the view screen. It had been encrypted and they could not trace its location. However, the only thing the message contained was a set of coordinates. The Visidian looked at Peter. Do you know anything about this? Peter studied the coordinates closely. I'm not sure if those are right. It would take us into uncharted space. However, he paused, I think we should go. This is a waste of time, Veroz spat. We need to look for my associate. He has the proof we need to back up our claims. What if this is them? What if they're trying to contact us? Peter seemed confident in what he believed. Impossible. The odds of that are too great, Veroz almost laughed at the preposterous idea. Yet I knew we weren't going to meet them there. And I was right, Peter begged him. I know I'm right about this too. Veroz looked at him and saw he was genuine. He didn't have any other options and was running out of time. All right, but if you're wrong, Veroz warned, I know, you'll kill me. I've heard it all before. As Peter and Veroz jumped back into hyperspace towards the unknown destination, Peter's mind raced with uncertainty and apprehension. Despite the gravity of the situation, a nagging feeling in the back of his mind urged him to stay vigilant. It was as if some subconscious instinct was guiding him, whispering that there was more to this journey than met the eye. Unbeknownst to Peter, his brother had managed to send a covert message using a highly encrypted communication frequency, urging him to warp to specific coordinates. The message had been disguised to evade detection, and although Peter didn't recognize the sender, something about the frequency resonated with him on a deep level. As they neared their destination, Peter's senses were on high alert. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into a trap, but he also couldn't ignore the possibility that there might be some kernel of truth hidden amidst the deception. Finally, the ship dropped out of hyperspace, and Peter found himself staring at a distant ice planet looming in the darkness. The coordinates provided in the encrypted message had led them here, to this desolate and frozen world. With a sense of foreboding, Peter followed Veroz as they descended towards the planet's surface. The ship touched down on the icy terrain, and Peter braced himself for whatever lay ahead. He knew that he was stepping into the unknown, but he also knew that he couldn't afford to hesitate now. As they stepped out onto the frozen landscape, Peter's senses tingled with anticipation. There was something about this place, something that stirred a primal instinct deep within him. He scanned the horizon, searching for any sign of danger or deception.